Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ZAPP webinar. If you don't already know me, my name is Justine Chappell. I'm the Communications and Marketing Manager for ZAPP. In today's webinar, I'm going to show you how to reconcile your event's revenue in ZAPP. And as you know, ZAPP lets you track the payments made by artists in numerous ways. So I'm going to show you the ins and outs of these tools and provide some tips that will hopefully help you when you are doing your record keeping. So I'm also going to talk about the remittance statement that you receive when we send those payments to you, and we'll talk about how to compare that statement with the income breakdown report so that you have a full understanding of what's being reported. Okay, so as you can see, we're logged in as an administrator in ZAPP, and we're going to talk in the beginning about the income breakdown report. So the income breakdown report provides financial information for revenue collected through ZAPP, and it's helpful for keeping track of the revenue that you're bringing in. So this report is found under Reports and Income Breakdown. So it's where you track the revenue that's being brought in when artists pay for jury fees, booth fees, or any fees you have set up for your event. However, this is not where you're going to keep track of fees paid to ZAPP, with the exception of the credit card fee, since that's attached to the transaction. You can run the report for certain dates or date ranges for the entire time, or for the entire time you've been on ZAPP. So it lets you run the report for any information that you need, and it can also run reports for, multiple events at one time, one event at a time, again, whatever you're looking for. And then we'll also touch on how you can run specific contract IDs. We'll talk about what that is if you don't already know, and I'll show you how to run the report based on contract ID as well. So what I'm going to do is just kind of give an overview of this page, explain all of the settings, and run the report to show you what it looks like. For any folks that might be new to ZAPP or that will see this recording later on, I just want to give a very in-depth view of what this report looks like. And then once we go over the report, I'm going to show a little bit more about how kind of what real data looks like and how to compare that with the remittance statement. So all right, let's get into it. So when you come to the income breakdown report, you'll first select your date range. So if you want to see the revenue that's going to be remitted to you in the next month, you can run this report for the month prior. When we remit the revenue to you, we send it by the 5th business day of the current month for the revenue that you collect in the previous month. So the checks that were sent out in the first week of April were the revenue includes the revenue from March. It will always include the revenue from March 1st to the 31st or whatever the month is. To see the revenue that you're kind of currently bringing in that we haven't yet sent to you, you can run it for the month to date. So I would run it for April 1st to today's date, and that will kind of show me in real time how much I've brought in this month. You could also do things like run it for the year prior to see how much in the calendar year you collected, or maybe you need to look up a specific transaction that an artist reached out to you about. If they told you what day they, purchased their jury fee or purchased their booth fee, you could just set the date range to the current date, and that would give you, that time, and that would allow you to locate that transaction a little bit better since you've narrowed down those dates. Once you set your date range, let me actually go, I'm going to do month to date so I can have actual data to show you. The next option is your filter option. So you'll get the chance in the below filters here to include all the data or exclude or include selected filters. So let me just choose excludes, and we'll talk about all these options here. First, you can exclude or include checks. Since checks that artists send, if they're paying your fees by a check, they'll send that to you. They don't send it to ZAPP. So if you're running a report to kind of see how much money ZAPP will be remitting to you, make sure you exclude checks, because that's not going to be taken into the total that we send you, since that's going to come directly to you. On the reverse, if you want to get a sense of all the checks that you should expect to receive, you can make sure you include selected filters and include checks only, and that would make it so that you just get a list of all the checks that you should expect to see. So whichever one you need for that. Again, if you don't accept checks at all, that's not going to matter to you. The next is credit cards. So again, you can either include or exclude credit cards to see checks or vice versa. But credit cards is what you'll want to make sure you include if you are looking for that credit card information. And that's usually what most are. And credit card in ZAPP, it's combined with PayPal. So either credit card or PayPal goes to the same place. It's a credit card payment. For coupons, you can include it for, general reporting. And if someone used a coupon, it would, be taken into that total. If you only just want to see how many people have redeemed coupons, just to get a sense of that, you can just include only coupons. So that can, if you want to see how many people redeem their coupons, that's a good way to go. Otherwise, you can just leave it, included in your regular filter. $0 transactions. So you'll want to exclude this if you don't care to see any free transactions. It's not going to really matter if you don't have a free jury fee or any free product, but you'll want to make sure you definitely include this in your transaction if you do have a free jury fee, for example, and you want to run a report of everyone that applied and the transaction information. Even though artists aren't paying for a certain fee, if it's $0, they still have to submit in the checkout page, and that records as a transaction so you can see the timestamp of when they applied, and just get a sense that they did apply. But you can exclude it if you don't have any free transactions, or if you do, you just want to remove that and not muddy up your report with any free transactions. I would also say definitely include $0 transactions if you made a coupon that discounted it 100%, because you might want to be able to see those transactions. Even if the person didn't pay, you can make sure you still include that so you can uncheck it in that case. Okay, the next thing is refunds. So for refunds, you can exclude it if you just want to see the revenue you're bringing in. You don't care about any refunded transactions, since those are essentially net zero. You can exclude refunds, but I do recommend including it if you just want to see, all the activity for your account, including those refunds. And it might be a good idea to just double check refunds. If you know that we processed some for you, just make sure that those are reported correctly. Just be sure to include those. Again, an easy way to do that too, if you are verifying refunds, is to include selected filters and just choose the refunds. That would make it so that you can just see all the refunds we processed and ensure that it matches up with what you requested from us. Again, I'm going to go back to our demo setup there. All right, and then the next section, we've got fee types. So this is actually brand new as of a few weeks ago. You can now filter the income breakdown report by specific fee types. So note that this is kind of it's grouping together by fee type. So if you recall, actually, let's just go into our event here. In the product editor, when you put in your products, you select a product type, and that's what I'm referring to here. So either booth product, canopy, whatever these generalized product types are. It's not going to filter by specific products, but that you can do, and I'll show you towards the end of the webinar how to filter for that in the event management table. But for the income breakdown report, it's just based on product type. So again, here we've got those there. Let me just set this up here. So if you want to run a report, maybe you want to include filters, you just want to run a report on the jury fees to see how much you brought in during the application cycle, you can just do that. If you, same reasons, want to just filter for booth fees or just find out all the deposits you're bringing in, it's a good way to be able to just group them all into certain fees and then run the report, and you can save that report as needed. So those are all the types. You got jury, booth, deposit, tent, canopy, electric, admin, and other. So that's a new way to be able to filter the income breakdown report. The next two items on here, they're separate. They look kind of combined with the others, but active and archive events. This simply allows you to filter this box here, the events list. Obviously, I only have one event in my account here, but if you've been with ZAPP for a few years, you'll have multiple events listed. Some would be archived, some would be active. And for those that have multiple events per year, that list might get long. So if I were needing to sort or actually, it would allow me to just select all active events. If I were to click this, it would automatically select all my active events, and vice versa. If I click this, it would all select the archived events. So that's just a way to be able to select, but you don't necessarily have to use that. If you're just running it for one event, you can just go ahead and find it in the list here and click on it. Once it's highlighted, that means the report is going to be run for that event. And if you want to run it for multiple events, you would use either a command on a Mac or control click, I think, on a PC to select multiple events or shift or whatever. So that would allow you to run it for multiple events. The other thing you can do, though, is search by contract ID. So on the remittance statement that you get, you always have a contract ID, and every event is assigned a contract ID. And so let's say you just have one show a year, you know that it's under a certain your contract ID, you can enter that into this field here. I'll show you when I get to the remittance statement where to find it. But you can also search, instead of going in and selecting all your events, you can search by contract ID. That's actually particularly helpful. Also, I'll show you what one looks like. Here's like a little demo contract ID. It's always going to be made up of, the first 3 letters of your organization's name, your licensee ID, which is your unique ID, and then it always has a C, and then the number of which contract you're on. So for this one, it'd be, I'm on the 5th contract. Might be 1 if you're just starting out, so on and so forth. So clients who have multiple, if you have multiple shows and maybe some shows overlap after you've renewed, you might have multiple contract IDs. So for example, let's say you have your summer show coming up and you're accepting booth fees, you've already juried, you're accepting booth fees, but you just renewed your contract with ZAPP to allow for your next fall event, and you're going to start accepting jury fees for your fall show. At that moment in time, you might have 2 different contract IDs for 2 different shows that are currently active. In that case, whenever we remit the next payment to you, you might get 2 separate payments in your account, or 2 separate checks, each with different contract IDs. And that's because we run those remittances based on contract ID and not on specific events. So if you want to find out what certain contract IDs are going to be bringing in certain amounts, you would enter your contract ID there. That's helpful if you have overlapping contracts in ZAPP. If that's not really the case for you, you just have kind of 1 event or 2 events that are spread so far apart that they're always going to be on, consecutive contract IDs and never at the same time. You don't really have to worry about that. And then finally, before I run the report, I'll show you that instead of running the report and listing it on the ZAPP page here itself, you can actually bypass that and then click to download it. So if I were to run this report here, let's pull up the actual things that I want. Or I actually want to include all data. If I have this check marked here and I click run report, what it's going to do is automatically download that spreadsheet, and it's not going to show me the report on the page itself. So we'll just give it a second to process. Oh, actually, I did this wrong. I need to remove that. There we go. There we go. So once I click run, you can see on the top right here, it gives me the spreadsheet that I can open up. But if I deselect that option and I click run, it's going to pull up the report on the page. And then I can click download results, and that will pull up the same report there. So that's how you set up your income breakdown report. And now I'm going to show you all the different details that you get on the report. This is all the same information that will come into the spreadsheet, but obviously on ZAPP here, it's a little more formatted so that you can take a look at certain things. So on the left, we've got the ZAPP payment ID. This is just for us really internally to be able to locate certain transactions, but it's not the same as the transaction ID that you get when someone pays by credit card over on the right here. So that's just kind of note, in ZAPP, which numbered payment it is. Then you get the date and the timestamp of when that artist submitted that payment. If it's a jury fee payment, that's going to mean, the date and time that they submitted their application. And it'll tell you, when they purchased their booth fee or something like that as well. Under purchaser, you'll get the name of the artist that submitted the payment and their artist ID. This is helpful if you want to be able to look up their account or their application. You can search by artist ID. Coupon code, it's not actually showing up in the column there, but you'll see any coupons listed under the details. And it looks like that. It'll say coupon used, and it'll say the name of the coupon that you created with the amount that was discounted. So that gives you a glance of what those look like. The total amount is obviously, the total amount that was paid by the artist for that transaction. And then the credit card fee will tell you how much was taken out for those credit card processing fees. And so that is taken from ZAPP or by ZAPP to pay for those, that processing system. So the net amount is what you'll want to look at for how much you'll be receiving in that payment. You'll see here this top one, the net amount is $35 because that's actually a check payment. Artists will enter a check number when they submit their payment on ZAPP, and I'm actually going to show a little bit more about the check workflow later on, but the check number's there, and you'll see that, you're going to get all of that back because that's not a credit card payment. The next one here, this is a credit card payment. You get some more details with credit card payments, like the transaction ID, and it'll tell you if it's PayPal or Visa or MasterCard. This transaction ID is what we need if you ever request a refund and you fill out the refund request form. We often ask for the transaction ID to be able to locate that exact transaction. So this is what we're talking about when we ask for it. We're not talking about this payment ID over here. We are asking for this transaction ID. If it is a refunded payment, this is what it'll look like. It has a negative total amount, and again, a negative amount on the net, and then that's how it looks on that. And then, I wanted to give you an example of basically every type of payment option, and those are all of them. Down here, we've got a booth payment as opposed to jury fees, so you can kind of take a look at how those look. Obviously, you get the name of the event too. So if you have multiple events in this report, it'll note what event this transaction per line is regarding. At the bottom of the report, of course, you'll see the totals for the entire event. If you have multiple events, it will show you separate lines here for different events, and then the bottom will be the overall total. So again, it'll show you the total amount billed, the credit card fees taken out for the reported amount, and how much was collected. You'll see we have pending here, and that's for that check payment. Since, let's say I have yet to receive that check payment, it's going to be marked as pending. Again, I'll show you how to mark that as received later. But that's the report. So, this is just a few transactions. You would likely see much more, but that is what you get when you get to the income breakdown report. So moving forward, I want to show you a remittance statement. So like I mentioned, the revenue collected through ZAPP from the first day to the last day of the month is sent to you on the following 5th business day of the following month. So for example, again, revenue collected from March 1st to March 31st was sent on the 5th business day of April. When we send your revenue, you'll get a statement that looks like this. It'll be emailed to the billing contact on file. And this will break down the revenue by day received and include any other deductions from the fees, such as licensing fees, add-on fees, credit card fees, etc. If you're auto-deducting your licensing fees, you'll only receive a remittance statement and a check, essentially, once those licensing fees have been paid off. And then the first remittance check that you receive after your fees are paid off will list the deduction. So this is actually reflected in the remittance that we're looking at here. This is a real remittance statement that we've redacted the information from so that you can't tell who it is, but this is an example of how someone started their event in February and they collected the revenue for February. As you can see at the top here, this is where we're marking the licensing fees that need to be paid off. So we're taking those fees out. But because we have taken those out, the account now needs to accrue enough revenue to pay off those fees before we can start remitting what is left. So in February, they collected a certain amount of revenue. We've also deducted the February credit card fees. And then in March, you'll see here that, they collected more revenue in March. So at the end of March, beginning of April, we remitted, what was collected, less those credit card fees, less those licensing fees, and in this case also less those per app fees. So this is an example of that first remittance statement that would be received after those auto-deducted licensing fees are paid off. I'll show you an example of what it looks like later when you pay up front for your licensing fees, because you'll get that revenue more immediately. So like I was saying before with the income breakdown report, that will show you the amount that you brought in. And the remittance statement does that same thing, although in this case it's grouped by daily revenue. It's not going to show you every single transaction. It's just going to show you how much you brought in on a certain day. But it's also going to show you what was taken out. So if you are auto deducting licensing fees, it's going to also show you those credit card fees, and then those per application fees. When you renewed your ZAPP account, if you paid for any add-ons like ZAPP Onsite, Gallery, Booth Management, if you paid for those, or if you opted to pay for those in your renewal, you might also see those listed here as well. I don't have an example, but it would just kind of show, the fee for that gallery add-on or the booth management add-on, and it would have that amount. So if you elected to auto-deduct the add-on fees, you would see that as well. So the other thing that you might not see on here, if you paid for any add-ons later on, like after you've renewed and after you're well in the application process, if you then decided to pay for an add-on, we would charge you up front for that. And so in that case, it's not going to be reflected on the remittance statement because it wasn't actually, added on your contract. It was just something paid separately, and it wouldn't be marked as a deduction on here, obviously. So you might also see refunds on the remittance statement, and that's what this new sample looks like. I have an example of a refund on this line here. It'll show you, it'll say refund, and it'll give you the first initial and then last name of the artist that was refunded, and it'll tell you the amount that was refunded. So we also keep track of refunds in the remittance so that you can keep track of that as well. Another thing you might see on remittances is if there's any chargeback or dispute fee that we had to charge your account, if we lost a chargeback or something. We would obviously email you ahead of time to let you know that that was occurring, but you might also see any chargeback or dispute fees deducted from the remittance. And then I already touched on this, but let's go back to the other one. Oh no, this one has one too. A per app fee might be deducted based on your plan. So for most cases, once you accept 150 applications, the per app fee starts to become applied. So you'll just see here the amount that was deducted. What you're seeing in the kind of the math here is basically all of the applications that you've accepted for the entire run of your show, minus the number of applications that you've accepted for or that you've already paid the per app fee for. So let's say this is March. Let's say this account already paid per app fees for 215 applications in the previous month. It's just doing that little math there. You don't necessarily need to pay attention to it, but as long as it matches up with the total applications that you receive at the end of the run, the per app fees will be calculated. So that's just showing the per app fees there. So that's all to kind of show you as well with a remittance statement that you can look at the income breakdown report to see the revenue coming in, but it's essential to review the remittance statement as well to see exactly how much you'll get in your check or your EFT payment, because that's going to have all of these additional fees listed out, and so that you know exactly what you're going to be receiving. But if you do want to run the income breakdown report from the month prior to get an idea of the revenue that you'll see in the next payment, you can do that. It really only works if you have paid your licensing fees up front, or you've already collected enough to pay that off. But you can do that. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you, let's say in this scenario, I want to run it. I know I've paid my licensing fees off, so I'm going to run it for the previous month. to see how much I should expect to receive. So again, we're going to work with March data. What I would do is I would run this report for March 1st to March 31st. I would then make sure I'm excluding those checks because, like I said, checks aren't going to be sent by ZAPP. They're going to be directly sent to the event. So I'm going to exclude checks, and I need all the fees in there. So I'm going to keep those in there, and I'll just run the report. And again, obviously, this is a demo event here. So what I did is I pulled a sample from an event, and I downloaded that income breakdown report into a spreadsheet. And this is what we're looking at now. Again, it's redacted, but it shows, all of the payments that were made for March for a specific event, and it will show me, the amount collected for the month prior so that I can see how much I'm going to get in my next check. So you can see here at the bottom, we have the total amount. This is actually, you're not going to get the totals in your spreadsheet. I calculated these on my own, but it's just to show you, okay, in the month of March, we accepted $6,600 about in total revenue, $236 in credit card fees were removed, and the net amount will be $6,374. So because I paid off my licensing fees, I should expect to receive about this much. In this case too, you'll see in a second, don't yet have per application fees being charged because my total number of applications has not yet reached 150. So I should expect to see this amount. And sure enough, if we go to the remittance statement, this is the same remittance statement for the report that we're looking at. It's actually going to show that exact total because in this case, I paid up front for my licensing payment. That's why it's showing there. And we don't have to worry about it. And I get all the revenue in there. So in this case, in perfect world, it actually matches the income breakdown report, but that's not always the case. So that's just to show you what it'll look like. So yeah, in this case, this person paid with a credit card payment for their licensing fees. The report will still kind of deduct the fees, but then credit it back so you can see, it was charged, but also paid. So that's a little bit about the remittance statements. Again, this is sent to the email with a billing contact on file. Oh, and I forgot to show you, vendor ID it's redacted, of course. That's your contract ID. So this area, top left, is where you want to come if you want to copy your contract ID and put it into the income breakdown report. So it's right there. You just can't see it in the current sample. For remittances, you can either get them via check or by electronic funds transfer. So electronic funds transfer allows you to have the revenue you collected directly deposited into your event's bank account. So in order to enroll in the EFT option, you can email the ZAPP team at zapphelp@westaf.org and let us know that you want to enroll in EFT payments. And then what we'll do is we'll send you a link to this form. This is a very secure form to collect your banking information. We'll ask for your organization details, your billing contact details, and then we'll ask for the routing number and account number of the bank account that you want us to remit it to. This, again, is a secure form. No one on the ZAPP team gets access to this. It only gets sent directly to the finance department so that they can upload it into our vendor system. And then for the following month after you've been enrolled, your remittance will be directly deposited into the account instead of sending a check. So EFT is really nice because not only do you get it a little bit quicker, because sometimes there's delays in checks being sent. You'll always know when it comes in, and you don't need to obviously deposit the check. So it's all electronic, and I highly recommend it. So again, if you're interested, and if you were to fill this out, it would notify the team that you did fill it out and that we can get you set up for EFT payments. This is only used to send you your monthly revenue. We're not going to be charging your account to collect payments from you or anything like that. If we are doing that electronically, it's something you initiate. It's not anything that we are just going to charge your account. So it's only for those monthly remittances. If you need to update your billing address, go to Profile and then Organization Details, and that will take you to this page. Only the account manager can get access to this page. So if you're not the account manager, you need to find out who that is and have them update it. Contact the team if the account manager needs to be updated so that the correct person has access to this. But you'll come here into the billing contact info section and make sure that the email address is correct, because that's the email that the statement is going to go to. And then especially if it's check payments, make sure that billing address is updated so that the check goes to the right place. If you ever move addresses or need to change it and you come in here and update it, once you click save, that's going to send a notification to the finance department to let them know that we have a mailing address change, and it will prompt them to make sure that the check is sent to the right place. Down below, you can see the contract history, and this is also going to show you as well if you've been enrolled in EFT. So if you are enrolled, it'll say enrolled and what date that you've filled out the banking information and that our team processed your EFT enrollment. It will show you that date. Once you're enrolled in EFT, you will actually be enrolled for the foreseeable future, unless you decide to contact us and have us remove you from that enrollment list. The next reminder or set of tips I want to talk about is check payments. We sometimes get folks asking about what that process looks like if artists submit checks. So I'm going to show you. First, I'm going to log into ZAPP as an artist to show you what this looks like. Let me get in there. Okay, so I'm logged in as an artist. Let's say I'm going to apply to a show. Maybe in this case, here's our demo event. I'm going to just purchase a different product since I've already applied and have been accepted. But I'm going to pay by check. So let's say I want to book some electric. This has already been added. I can add a canopy or whatever, but I can do that. So add the products I want to pay for. Click next step. I'm going to update the quantities if I need anything. Okay, next step. Any coupons, I'll skip that because I don't have coupons. And then payment information, this is where I'll select if I'm going to pay by credit card or PayPal. Let's say, or credit card, PayPal, or check. So I'll select check. Then again, I'm going to click check. And that's going to open up the check details section. So when an artist pays by check, they're going to enter the check number, and they'll enter that there. They can put any notes there if they just want to confirm like the name of them or anything else. That's just going to help you if they need to communicate something to you. But they're going to submit their check number and click Submit Check Payment. Then when they get to, and I should have showed this in the previous step, but in the previous step it says send the check to the address that's listed on the receipt. And so when they click Submit Check and they get to this receipt page, you'll see at the bottom we have the address is for the demo event, but this is going to be your address to the festival, and it'll prompt them to send that check to you. Once an artist submits their check payment, they will be put into the awaiting payment by check status. So if you go to Events Management, select your event, you'll see them under awaiting payment by check, and you'll click on that to pull up the application. So here's an example of someone that submitted a check. And it goes to this status so that you can separate these people from anyone else that's actually paid. You'll see them in this status, and then under the payments column, you'll see the check number, and you can wait to receive the check. Once you receive the check, you can verify the check number. Then you can set that check payment itself status to received. You can also set it to not received or returned depending on the situation. Hopefully you get it. So you'll click received. Then the other thing you'll need to do is change their status to received so that you know for sure that their application as a whole has been received. If you haven't received the check yet, but you want to just put them into received so that they can move on with the jury, that's okay. You can change their status to received, but just make sure you come back and change that check payment. Once you change the check to received, and I'll click update, then the income breakdown report that we were looking at earlier, let's make sure I run this. It's going to mark the check as actually paid and not pending anymore. So that $35 payment that we saw earlier is going to show up under checks and no longer pending. Obviously, I just showed you that I submitted a different check for $75, so that's still showing as pending. But once you click received on the check itself, it will show up in the income breakdown report. So that's the entire check process for those who might not be familiar with it. The other thing I want to talk about is how to review purchases on the event management table. As I showed you, the income breakdown report shows you the transactions that people are making, the products they are purchasing, but you can also do that on the events management section, and that will help you kind of sort other things as well. So I'm going to click to view all the applications. And so as you know, we have this payments column. Now, if you come into the events management table and you don't see this payment column, be sure to go over to the table editor, and that allows you to customize which columns you're seeing on this table and make sure payments is selected. So if you don't see it selected, make sure payments is on there, and then you'll get the payments column. So this allows you to view the payments of whichever product types that they are purchasing. You can see if an artist purchased a jury fee and then the booth fee, it's all in there. If an artist purchased a booth deposit, if you use deposits, you'll see it here in the payments column, but you'll also see this deposit tag that is automatically created when an artist purchases a deposit, and that helps you further note when deposits are helps you track the deposit payments. The other thing you can do on the events management report is filter these applications by the purchased products themselves. So unlike the income breakdown report where you can search by product type, this one actually lets you search for specific products. It will list, let me reset there. In order to do that, you'll come to the search application box. Under filter applicants by, you'll remove all applications and instead choose purchased products. That will give you this purchase products filter. And again, you'll want to remove all. And then you can come in here and select the products that you want to search for. So let's just say I just want to see who is paying for the corner booth. I'll just choose corner booth and click search, and it'll give me the list of people that purchased a corner booth. I can also search, for multiple products at a time. Anyone that purchased maybe corner or double, I can search that, and it will increase the amount that I see here. This also lets you customize the reports at the bottom, download contacts or download answers, and lets me customize the report based on the criteria I select on this page. So if I just want to run a report for booth products, I would just filter everything by, single booth, double booth, corner booth, whatever it is, click search, and then when I download any of these reports at the bottom here, I have that spreadsheet of just those payments. So it's similar to the income breakdown report. However, when you run these kinds of reports, it's going to show you, in this case, more of the contact information for the artist. And in the download answers report, in that case, it's going to show you the answers to any of the application questions you may have created. So it's nice on this page to be able to filter by specific products that you set up. The other tip I want to share here, we've already touched on it, but just make sure you use tags if you need to. You can create a tag by typing one in here. If their booth has been waived, or if they need to still pay you or something, and you prefer to use tags to note on a certain application, you just type the tag in and click add, and that would add the tag there. Then you can, if you wanted to, in the filter applicants by, click tags, and then further narrow down your search results based on tags. And that would help you in that case. But tags can be used for anything you want it to be used for. If there's anything that needs to be corrected on the application, you can mention that. The other thing you could do is add comments. So if you click add comment here, and you might say something like, still waiting on their check and it's been, a long time or something, that will tell future you. It will tell any other colleagues that work in ZAPP. When you save that comment, you'll see the beginning of the comment on that status column there, and then they can click on it and view the rest of it. So that's what it looks like when you add a comment. So all of the tags and commenting and filtering, it just kind of helps for your general record keeping. And it's, kind of recommended to keep yourself organized, to just make notes where needed. And you can group artists however you need to. And then the final tip that I'll leave with you is to just contact the ZAPP team if you need help with anything related to your reports, your remittance statement, payments, anything like that. You can access the team by going to the ticket tab and sending us a ticket, or you can email zaphelp@westaff.org, and that will send us an email. So the ZAPP team is available to help with anything you need related to your revenue or anything at all, really. And that wraps up today's webinar about reconciling your revenue in ZAPP. I hope you learned some good tips or were reminded of anything useful. If you have questions specific to your event or feedback for our team, please contact us again, zaphelp@westaff.org. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.